very good afternoon to all of you. Can you hear me? Okay. So before I start with my talk today, I want to set a few ground rules straight. I want you all to listen to me carefully, pay a lot of attention, very attentively, because at the end of my talk, I'm going to ask you some questions. And based on your answers, I have some prizes to give you. Alright? So the ground rules are clear. Alright, so here I start. Before I start, I'm going to disappoint you. I do not have any gifts to give you away. I just made that up. But I want you to reflect upon what I just said. Did that not get you thinking? What if I don't listen? What if I miss out on a point? What if I'm unable to answer? It did get you thinking a lot. The point that I'm trying to make here is, this is something that all of us face throughout our educational journey, starting from school to colleges, so on and so forth, year after year, wherein our teacher walks into the class, opens a textbook, says, you need to be listening to me carefully, attentively, and at the end of my chapter, I'm going to question you. I'm going to grade you based on your answers. So based on this fear, based on this stress, most of us pass out of our universities or schools. But have we really learned? Are we really educated? How do we certify an individual as an educated person just because he's managed to get those degrees in time? So, I have a few observations that I have made specifically in India. First one being traffic. Now, we all know what is traffic, and for those who have lived in bigger cities, I really don't need to spell it out to you how difficult and how annoying it can be to be in that situation where you're stuck in that position. So there was this once when I was in Bangalore, and it's famous for its traffic, and I had an auto rickshaw wala on my left, and I had an expensive Audi driver on my right, and all of us were stuck in traffic. And in India, if I had to ask you which is the most used part of an automobile, I think the engine would rank second, because the horn will always come first. So this is exactly what the two gentlemen were doing. They were continuously, incessantly honking in a very stagnant situation in the traffic. When I looked at the two of them, I see one person who looks like he's not had any form of formal education. Whereas I look at a person on my right who looks educated, at least by the looks of it. That's what I have assumed, at least, in an expensive car. But they are both reacting in the same way, in the same situation. So what is the difference? Are we really educated? Now, before I come to my second observation, I have a question for you all. How many of you actually unbuckle your seat belts and stand up in the aisle space just the moment your aircraft makes a landing and try to take your bags out from the cabins, even before the air hostesses open the door? Okay, my audience is very good today. All right. So this is an observation that I have usually made whenever I've traveled by air, and we have people standing up in the aisle space, leaving those paid seats that you actually paid for and waiting to get out of that aircraft. We all know the plane has landed for a reason. It needs you to get out, but we still do it nevertheless. Again, are we educated? Are we educated? Why do we do this? So what is education? If I had to give you a very pragmatic, practical, logical answer, most of you might say, I need a job and hence I need to be educated. Simple. But if I had to give you a textbook definition of education, it is the field of study which deals with methods of teaching and learning in schools, wherein literacy is just one part of it. Literacy is just one facet of education. But sadly, most schools have made literacy the most important criteria before they can certify somebody as an educated person. So what is it that we are missing out on? Now I have three famous names for you. Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, I was going to say Will Smith, but I was trying to say Bill Gates. Sorry, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs. So when I tell these names, what comes to your mind? There's something very common about the three of them. Yes, rich, famous, well-known, and all college dropouts. Now, if I'm going to compare these companies with other companies like Infosys, Tata, and the list goes on in our country, I'm going to compare these two. They both have some similarities. They're both rich, both are successful, both are well-to-do, famous, but what they differ in is, these are all service-driven companies, but these three companies that were formed, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft, were completely based on three different individuals, their innovative abilities, their creative abilities, their sleepless nights when they decided to take what they really thought was, what they really believed in, and they wanted to do something about it, and they stood up for their cause. So, creativity becomes very important. It's as important as literacy, and thanks to creativity and people who believed in it, we have some wonderful stories like Harry Potter today. And how I wish we really had a sorting hat in our colleges and schools which could easily tell us that you fit in this place. But no, we don't have a sorting hat. Now, when I think of the educational society or the people who are a part of this society, there are two kinds of people who form a part of the society. One are the people who fall in the academic excellence criteria or who are really good academically. And the second criteria would be of people who are good at their craft, who love doing what they do. Ergo creativity. But since most intelligence has been linked to academic excellence, we have a very limited view of what intelligence is supposed to be. And therefore, as a consequence, many brilliant, talented people end up believing that they don't fit the system, which is a very disappointing state to have. So when I say fit the system, I'm reminded of Mr. Ritesh Agarwal and an interview that I had read of him. We all know who he is, one of the youngest Indians, rich, successful, one of the richest Indians, the founder of Oyo Rooms. Mr. Ritesh said in one of his interviews that he always knew he never fit the system. So he decided to drop out. He knew he is going to disappoint his parents. So he decided, no, I can't do this. I cannot disappoint them by being a failure in education. So I might as well disappoint them now. I quit and maybe I make them happier when I decide to do what I would really like to do. So in his interview, he said that in the coming generations, I wish and I hope more and more students drop out. But sadly, the dropouts that are coming in today are not of good quality. Now, a quality dropout might sound like an oxymoron to most of you, but it actually makes sense. What the gentleman is actually trying to say here is, don't just drop out because you don't like college. You don't like to study. It's a boring place to be in. Drop out with a vision. Drop out with an idea. Drop out with something that you believe in so strongly that you can actually compensate for that dropout. Make it count. There was a research that obviously when I was researching my topic about what to talk and what points can I bring up, there was a research that I came up on the internet which said that in the coming years, more and more people are going to keep graduating in the world more than ever before, which is going to lead subsequently to something known as an explosion in the educated population. We are already populated, but the educated population is also going to be there, which will lead to something known as an academic inflation, wherein there are going to be too many degrees piling up, not enough jobs, or where the job requirement is there might not be the required certificates. So what do we do with those piling degrees? Piling degrees. I'm reminded of what's happening recently in news now. At the Banaras Hindu University, what I came upon just 2 days ago, there are a set of students protesting against the fact that they've hired a Muslim lecturer for Sanskrit. If that's what education has to be, then I think we are really failing as a society. Because what the students have clearly forgotten or missed here is Sanskrit is just a language. It has nothing to do with religion. So when people ask me, so what is it that you do? And I have a very normal answer, the regular icebreaker talks. I say I'm a teacher. I teach primary. So I've usually received two kinds of responses to this. One is people say, wow, that's a great profession. It's a noble job. it's a good place to be in. And on the other hand, I have people saying, oh my God, you're a teacher. Why did you take it up? It must be so tough to handle all those kids. Which makes me believe that one sector of our society believes that teaching is a good job. It's a profession. And on the other hand, there are people who have no idea what it's about. They just think of it as a burden. Which makes me believe that not many people have a clear understanding of what goes on behind those classroom doors. That the teacher or the facilitator is actually the driving force behind many things. Even if she manages to get one student inspired, as Mrs. Kaju had said, very inspiring words, ma'am. Even if she could manage to inspire one student in a whole class, I think it's the most gratifying job that you can have. So, as a teacher in 2019 today, I look at my students and I think they're going to be graduating in the next 10 years and maybe retire in the next 50 years. As a teacher, am I teaching them, am I preparing for those 50 plus unpredictable years that are ahead of them? Or am I just teaching them today what's in the textbook and going home? So what should really certify an individual as an educated person? Compassion towards each other, your behavior in society, how do we behave in traffic, how we react in a situation, in a stressful situation. Shouldn't these be the qualities that a person needs to be first judged by before we can certify that person as an educated individual? Because education must go beyond your colleges, beyond your degrees and schools. These are the questions that we need to be asking. Because while answers lead to stagnancy, questions are still going to use up that grey matter. Thank you.